I'm not going to do anything like that. I am going to wrap it in the sign. What did I do? Yeah. I drove by it the other day. I'd say doing an average they're trying currently voice development's trying to do like a Lance I don't know what they want to do with it, but yeah. Yeah. What's up?
Hello.
I can actually hear everybody.
You and your attempt to go around that curve.
What's that?
You and your attempt to go around that curve on a plane.
Depends who's talking.
Oh my gosh, I forgot you saw that. That was problematic, especially with a child on the front.
I remember the child on the plane days. It's very nerve-wracking.
Especially when you got one
And then
who's
the one's off here and it's
like,
like, stop!
yeah,
Yep.
no control on that one.
I remember.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m., so I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is our November 9th, 2023 regular council meeting. Lori, can I get roll call?
Mayor Young.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brandon.
Here.
Councilmember Painter.
Here.
Councilmember Sidewalk.
Here.
Thank you. And the invocation and pledge of allegiance tonight will be led by Councilmember Painter.
You don't. Thank you. If everybody could please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this opportunity to gather here tonight, surrounded by so many wonderful people from our community, to give thanks and discuss the future of our village. Lord, we thank you for the abundance of blessings you have bestowed upon us this year, and we ask that you keep everyone in our community, especially our first responders, safe and healthy, and provide us with opportunities so that we can provide opportunities for others. Let us strive for greatness in all that we do and remind us to always count our blessings. During a time with so much opportunity for our village, there's also a great deal of uncertainty in the world around us and so many challenges that we will inevitably have to face together in the future. For that reason, Lord, we ask that you will be a beacon of light, our hope, and the rock on which we stand so that we may glorify you in all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the agenda with removing agenda item 28, as staff has to do a little more work on that one, and we'll bring it back to us at a later date.
Move approval of the agenda with the elimination of item in the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Agenda item number, is it 23?
28.
28.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do not have any presentations tonight. And then moving on to the consent agenda. Any council comments on the consent agenda?
I have none.
I have none.
Any public comment on the consent agenda? Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, communications from citizens. Laura, do you have any cards?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Pat Watkins, 167 River Drive, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to come tonight after seeing a few comments on Facebook about the El Portal project. Being a resident here for a very long time, since '77, El Portal has needed attention for a very long time. That project, as far as I'm concerned, obviously it was going to be an ongoing challenge at the South Gate. But I personally feel like they've done an excellent job there. They do at night fix it so we can travel back and forth. Daytime is work. And I don't think it's been that much of an inconvenience. It certainly was necessary and is necessary. And I just wanted to commend council. Marjorie, Doug's out there all the time. It's going to be great when it's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other cards? No? Any other public comment? Okay. All right, moving on, communications from council.
Yeah, I'll have a few. I want to say thank you to the leadership of the village, the staff, and the residents of Tequesta. Last month, we discussed supporting Pay It Forward by Meals on Wheels. And proud to report, as of about 4:30 this afternoon, on a goal of 250 pies, the village of Tequesta has sold 244.
Wow.
So tremendous. Might be the only one other corporate team that's leading us, and it's somebody who's been doing it for all 12 years, and they've got a network of people. So thank you to the village of Tequesta. It's fantastic. Again, it's a health and wellness check along with a hot, nutritious meal that's served. So thank you for the village for taking a stand and believing in our homebound population. Second thing is chili cook-off this weekend, and I'm very, very excited for that. I hope that our residents will go and swing by and see that. It's a tremendous benefit to our community as well. And a reminder that the following Saturday, September 18th, is Coffee with a Veteran. It will be at the Dunkin' Donuts from 10 to 12 on Saturday the 18th, and I hope to see a lot of people there. So thank you. That's
Awesome. Yeah, I want to say thank you to Jason Fawcett, who's here, the Village of Sequester Fire Rescue, and as well as the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I was able to participate in a really cool program last Saturday called Fire Ops 101 out at the main Palm Beach County Fire Rescue facility out there, the one with the big tower on Southern out near Turnpike. It was a very cool program. I've always appreciated what our fire rescue does for us, but it certainly opened my eyes to all the stuff they do, the danger they put themselves in to keep us all safe. And I would encourage anybody that has the opportunity to do it. It was fantastic. So thank you very much.
I have nothing for this evening.
I just wanted to thank our entire public safety department for another safe and successful Halloween. I think it gets bigger and bigger in Tequesta Halloween, and I know the children and adults alike all have fun, so thank you so much for your hard work on that night. Okay, moving on to standing reports. Village Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a follow-up from the October council meeting on the topic of hiring counsel to represent the village in the PFAS class action, I did determine that the group that I had brought before you to serve as possible counsel, locally they represent the city of West Palm Beach in that matter, and other than that, they have a number of clients on the West Coast in the Tampa Bay area, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco counties, the Tampa Bay Water Authority. So I did obtain that information. If council is satisfied with that, I can bring this back. We've had full discussion. I can put it on your consent agenda on the next agenda if you're satisfied. If you want more information, I'm happy to keep digging. But I just wanted to bring that to you tonight.
We will need to pull this on the agenda again, future agenda. So is that sufficient information for everyone, or do we want any references called, or see if anyone else locally is using another firm? Council thoughts?
I'm comfortable with West Palm also utilizing this firm and the diligence that our legal counsel's done, so I don't look for any more information.
Likewise.
I'm fine. Let's put it on the future agenda.
Okay, so we can put that back on the future agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the village attorney? Oh, all right, village manager?
Thank you, Mayor. November 16th, we have Palm Beach County Tax Collector will be here at the village, be able to answer any questions for residents. That's something that I think we started maybe half a year back, having a remote office here from them and be able to answer questions. November 17th, we have Parks and Rec Van Clans, which is a pretty popular program that we've been doing for a while. November 29th, special council meeting, discuss the appointment of vacant seat. Remembrance Park, we look to have site plan approval moving forward, and council should reach council in December. So I know we've been talking about that for many years, but really working on it this past year. So hopefully that's gaining traction. And then we received the tree canopy plans. Staff is working on pricing that, and we hope to, once we get that kind of approved and the pricing approved, we'll look for the perfect time to plant trees to try to fill in the tree canopy. And then the hottest ticket in Sequesta is the Residence Academy that begins February 7th. We have over half the class full already. And we have opened up 3 spots for high school students, and we have 1 already that is signed up for that. So very excited about that. And then just happy Veterans Day to our veterans. And I know we recognize them here, the veterans that we have. I think we have 7 or 8. We do that. We recognize them today. And any veterans who have served the country, we appreciate their service. So.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the village manager? No. All right, moving on, police department.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Just some updates in regards to the past month. We had Coffee with a Cop this past month. We also participated in Florida Government Week that was led by Village Clerk Lloyd McWilliams, where our officers, Corporal Wachowski, read to the children along with Officer John Pruitt. We participated in Fire Fest, also attended the Good Shepherd Halloween Parade, as well as the Fall Festival at First Baptist and food trucks as well. Everything else you have on there, we continue to train as we always do. Officer Roussel went to field training officer, interview and interrogations, Officer Muniz and Baldwin. And just a couple of things we're doing. Obviously, we're getting ready for Saturday's chili cook-off, which is going to be a huge event, and Captain McGovern does a phenomenal job with that. The following week, we have the Luke Bryan concert that's going to be in Jupiter Point. So we're coordinating with Martin County, as well as Jupiter Island, Jupiter, and everyone else to have people on the water and as well as out on the field, because it's going to be well attended, I'm sure. So we're making preparations in that, and that's all we have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the chief?
So I just want to second what Mayor said about Halloween. Thank you guys for your hard work and putting everyone you could out there. I do want to have you please thank our citizens on patrol, because they were all out there rocking it, and Mike in particular was rocking it, keeping those roads open and getting on people. So thank you guys. That means a lot, because I hear things from other neighborhoods, and the fact that you guys are out there, that really does mean a lot, and people notice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, fire department.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Council, Mr. Manager, Attorney, Village Clerk. I think what we're going to do today, we're going to do a little bit different. I think we'd like to talk about Fire Ops 101. And I know it was already mentioned, and while I'm sure I could do it justice, I think what I'm going to do is ask Lieutenant Fawcett to go ahead and come up here and join us and talk about Fire Ops 101, what it does for council members, and what it does for the community, and of course, how it helps the fire department.
Thank you. Good evening. I didn't write that much stuff down, so I don't promise all of that. But we had a great event last weekend. It's open to the entire council. We're going to have another one next year. I don't have the dates yet, but when I reached out to you guys this year, I didn't know how to describe it. We had never been there. We had never been invited. I don't know if that was our fault or their fault, but I really pushed it this year. I thought it was important to, I think you hear me and Chief talk a lot, and you probably kind of get tired of hearing our voice. And so I could tell you what we do, or we can take you somewhere. We can show you what we do. We do something a little bit similar. We have you guys ride with us if you'd like to at the fire station, 24-hour shifts, so that is always welcome to you guys. But specifically, we did the fire ops this year. Patrick did live fire training, extrication training, search and rescue training. You know, you're able to see why the equipment's important, why the human equipment is important, why we need people on the trucks. So I think it was a great event. And again, I didn't have to say a word, so it was somebody else talking. But what they did, which I thought was very cool, I found out right before it started, they were going to give all the participants a helmet, and it was a legitimate helmet, but it said Fire Ops 101. And so I kind of thought of that as your fire academy training. Well, you graduated. So what I was going to do, well, I said, Chief, can we give, you know, Patrick a shield? And he said, absolutely. You should get the orange probationary shield. I know. I said, I saw him work. I said, he did a lot of good work. So I kind of went above the chief, which is not, you know, not usually the way you want to do it, but we have a firefighter, Tequesta firefighter
awesome.
Shield for your helmet. And again, I'll reach out to all you guys next year once we do it again. And we can, you can participate, you can watch, you can do whatever.
Oh, good job, Patrick. I'll photobomb Patrick.
Or you go like this.
See if I go to. I'm gonna give you the card counts. Me card counts.
Photobomb.
I've been bragging about it since. Thank you, guys. I also got to use the Jaws of Life, which was
Nice, that's
very
pretty cool.
exciting.
So who needed the timer tonight there, boss? All right, so I'm going to get on to my part of my fire department report. We started off the month with an award for Captain David McGovern that was delivered by Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce for community service. I think we all agree he's earned that many, many times over. We then proceeded to, unfortunately, we had to go support our brothers in Delray Beach Fire Rescue. We had a funeral for a firefighter who passed away, Lieutenant Ray Keith, so we did attend that. Our birthday party, we had a tremendous birthday party. I thought it was great to show the community, you know, it's been 30 years that we've been here, talk a little bit about our history, and I do have something for our history, our local history guides here. So we'll be passing that on to them here directly. We've also started a program called, it's basically a train-a-trainer program for our officers. They're going to get together every other month, and you'll see some pictures of that in here where the officers were actually training on a new piece of equipment. They then go over their own techniques, they then take that back to the shifts, and that's one way we get consistency across all three shifts. So train-the-trainer for the officers. It's lead by example. Fall Fest has been mentioned a couple of times. We enjoy that every year. We enjoy Operation Candy Toss as well, where the trucks go out and try to meet the kids on the street, and we hand out candy as best we can. And any kid that's dressed as a firefighter gets an extra piece, because that's just the way we roll. Cops, yeah, we might give them a piece too. So another thing that happened this month was the countywide water rescue training. You may have seen this on television. It was certainly put across social media, and our team was able to attend, I think, 3 out of the 4 days. So we got to have guys get in the water, do rescues. We got to have people mirror the incident commanders, the safety officers. So we got a lot of real practical experience out of that evolution that they did down there in West Palm Beach. This involved the Coast Guard. It involved 10 or 12 other agencies. It was huge. The scenario itself involved a sinking boat with people on the boat, people in the water, people under the water, helicopter rescues, surface rescues, dive team. So it was all encompassing, all skills, all hazards. And we, like I said, we got a ton out of it. I think that's something we're going to be able to repeat with other skill sets like hazardous materials and high angle rescue as well. New hires. We were able to hire 2 firefighters. Joseph Hoban and Mark Fishman joined us on the 16th. They went through orientation training. They are on shift, so that does bring us up to full staff. So I know oftentimes I get questions from council about where we are with staffing. Full staff, 8-man shifts. So we appreciate that. The 2 cardiac monitors that were in the budget, we did order, we did receive. They are on the trucks. They're similar equipment to what we purchased the year before. This rounds out what we needed to do with replacing the cardiac monitors. We should have a good 10-year life expectancy on them, and they're state-of-the-art, so we're very happy with that. And then, of course, we have the, what was that thing again? Oh, yeah, the chili cook-off. So Saturday, Paradise Park, 1 Main Street. If you like chili, you like beer, you want to support the veterans, come out. It's always a great time. We raise a ton of money. It goes to good charities, and I think I already said it was a great time. So with that, I'll conclude my report, and I'll take questions.
Thank you. Council, any comments or questions?
What date is the fire dog coming?
Say that one more time.
What date is the fire dog coming?
Fire dog.
What date is that?
I don't have a date for a fire dog.
Okay.
Sorry. That gonna be a thing with us?
I'm gonna ask every time.
Christmas is coming up.
That's what, yeah, Christmas, let's go.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, utilities.
Hi, good evening. Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director, and I'll tell you, I will dress up as a firefighter for an extra piece of candy anytime. You've got the report in here, and I've been trying to include pictures. I'm not competing with the fire department because there's no way I could compete with fire police. However, sometimes the picture is worth 1,000 words, and you probably have noticed that the catch basins are no longer sitting on top of the ground. They're all in the ground, and again, another kudos to Doug for he's been amazing out there, as have my staff as well, but Doug's been great. And Doug and I are grateful that the dewatering operations have ceased, because that's been a lot of fun. The rest of the report tells you where we are with it. 2 yard drains and the HDPE will be installed in the right-of-way, the south side, and then the remaining work of the grading the swales, repairs to the edge of the road, the open cuts, and then the sidewalk part of the project. So we've got some pictures of what went on there. The DEP vulnerability assessment grant, we did request an extra $50,000. I know I mentioned this last month. I've still not heard anything from DEP. The consultant continues to finish up their all of their inundation modeling, and then putting together the list of projects that they see as something that would be a priority for the village to get done, and then we can use that list to go ahead and get on, do everything we can to get on grants list, in our local or our county grants list, and then also apply for additional resiliency grants, but keeping in mind we have an extremely limited stormwater budget, and those projects are only funded at 50%, but that won't stop us from continuing to move that ball forward, to do everything we can to enhance our drainage. So Dover Ditch project, that is one of our joint projects with the town of Jupiter. And here it says we haven't heard anything from DEP. I did hear from the grants manager. He had a couple of additional questions. He's about ready to send us the draft agreement, so you'll be seeing that coming to council or coming through the system. And CMA continues to work. As you know, the Army Corps, the permit process takes 9 months, a year, could be over a year, and we hope not. So some good news where we showed some pictures here. We had a brass scrap contract, and we got $20,000. Jeff was very, see the smile on Jeff's face. He's very happy when we get a check. And our new, I'm not sure if I really shared with you that we promoted someone from within to become our foreman out there at the Distribution and Stormwater Division. Jesse Jenkins, he's really jumped out of the plate, and he's really making some improvements out there. And this was one of his initiatives, of course, David. And I had a little bit of an assist, but that was really Jesse wanting to get things right. And he's done some things inside the offices too. The water treatment plant projects, I've got a technical memo for the high service pumps, where we've talked about the hydraulics internal to the plant, as well as our interconnects and modeling. We did some additional hydraulic modeling for simultaneous providing water to all 3 water system interconnects. And 2 of those, of course, are with Jupiter, and 1 is with South Martin Regional Utilities. And establishing the proposed control logic for those high service pumps. So I know I could bore you to death with this stuff. You guys will just glaze over. I just want to share with you, that we're, again, moving the ball forward on these projects. The consultant has advised me that the final design plans will be ready March 30th. Of course, we'll have some review milestones to that. And then at that time, as you'll recall, when we have a project ready to go, ready to bid, we must provide a request for inclusion for the state revolving loan funds. And this is one of the water treatment plant projects. That's one of the projects that is to be funded with the state revolving loans. So, and I'll just give you updates as we go along. So, water main projects, our favorite project, number 4, we're still on target for a notice to proceed of January 8th, which is after the holidays. You'll be grateful for, I hope. We're going to have a second pre-construction meeting, and of course include Public Works as well, just to make sure we're all on the same page and to make sure all the notifications and submittals will be on target. And we expect to send letters to residents in December. We're trying to figure out the right exact date so it doesn't conflict too much with the holidays. And we also will be putting it on the bills, the utility bills. Hey, this project's coming up. And then, of course, the signs that we usually put up a week or 2 in advance of the construction starting on either side of the project. Beach Road Phase 2, that's the project that is going before the request for inclusion meeting for DEP. And then we'll be able to bid that project and move forward with it. The next project that will be bid will be next week. It'll just be it's just a maintenance item, but you might see it. I want to make sure you're aware of it. It's the cleaning and painting of our water tanks out at the water treatment plant. So we have the 2 tanks, and so you might see that on the village website. The village clerk has been so patient, and we've set up the meetings and the virtual pre-con or pre-bid rather meeting, and to make sure that we get the best vendors. And then just to close, we had a couple. I didn't put my pumpkin because it was kind of sad, but it also had Village Pride. So I also had the VOT and the water waves on it. So all of our submittals for utilities, and of course, Public Works always takes the top prize, but we did have a lot of pride in the village. So, as he reminds me endlessly, or maybe all of us, and so here we go. And this is that time of year when there's not a lot of data on the dashboard. We're starting out the new fiscal year, and so our revenue looks really low, but it will. We're doing well in our so far. So I don't know if you have any questions about this, but I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Council?
No questions, but instead of saying thank you to everybody that came up on the standing reports, thank you to Marjorie and Doug and our 2 chiefs, Public Works, utilities, everything. The L Portal work, as Mayor Watkins said, was never going to be easy by design. No. And while it's a work in progress, and I've gotten phone calls as well, and probably the same people that put it on Facebook. I keep telling them, it's a project. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that works for the village that touches that on a daily basis. There's coordination with police and fire, and so much goes on. So guys, just thank you very much. That's a thankless job. It really is, especially when those comments come in and we know the real story about what's going on and what you're doing and what you're dealing with. So on behalf of myself, the people that I speak with, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. But I really also want to especially mention the clerk's office, because the number of times that we've, they've been so helpful putting out notifications to the public as well. So we try, Doug, or one of the two of us, mostly Doug, has prepared, these road closures, and then the clerk's office pushes them out to make sure the public is aware. So I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I'll just second that, and I mentioned it at last meeting, or maybe it was a workshop, I can't remember, but I drive El Portal every day, and granted, I'm not in the construction site, but all things considered, it has been extremely efficient, clean. I'm on construction sites all the time. That's something I always notice, and I know you got to keep trucks around, I get that, but all things considered, it has been a very well-run project, and I guess for the clerk's office, just keeping everyone up to date. There's been days I've been at work or heading to work, where I get an email or Instagram, and I know, okay, I'm not going that way today, and that saves you time, and so I greatly appreciate it as well, and I'm sure everyone's very excited to have it finished, and it'll look great.
So excited.
It'll look great. Well, it looks like you're getting close, very close.
And we're going to be excited to start the Country Club water main replacement project, and I hope that your patience extends, and the village's patience extends to that project as well, because it's one of the main thoroughfares, and we will have painful times. So.
But that's after Christmas, correct?
That is after Christmas.
Okay.
Targeted notice to proceed, January 8th,
Okay.
after Christmas.
Give them a little bit of break.
Right, giving them a little
Thank
break.
you.
And I made sure that the materials were going to be delivered by then. I re-verified that this past week, so thank you.
Awesome,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to the regular agenda. Under old business, agenda item 16, ordinance number 11-23, first reading for installation and maintenance of artificial turf. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 1123, ordinance of the Village Council, the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 9 supplemental regulations, Division 4 landscaping, to provide new regulations for the use, installation, and maintenance of artificial turf, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and further purposes. This is first reading again. And you recall we had first reading last month. However, there were significant edits directed by the council, so it was my opinion that we should do second reading again as opposed to going right to second reading. So in terms of the edits that have been made, they appear on page 9 of the ordinance, which is page 454 of the agenda packet. I've highlighted them in yellow for this evening for this first reading, so that they're easily identified, but basically we do three things. We say that artificial turf may be used for purposes associated with the principal use of any commercial or mixed-use zone property as a special exception, and we require the special exception process in the zoning code to be followed before a building permit can be issued. Second change was that we say that artificial turf may be placed in the rear or side yards when concealed from view from the adjacent right-of-way. That's new language. And then the third change was that artificial turf may be used up to a maximum of 10% of the required landscaped area, including putting greens. As originally written, it excluded the putting greens, so now that's included. So those are the three changes that the council directed. The language is now in the ordinance, and it's back before you for further direction.
Thank you, Keith. Council?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the intent, that, everything's there. Keith, I think you did a great job. I think it, while also placing some good restrictions on it, I think it also gives us some flexibility on people that might want to use it. But I think it also, it's restricted enough that hopefully folks that aren't crazy about it, they don't have to look at it. And, so I think it's perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, perhaps what happens for those properties that are currently fully landscaped? Are they grandfathered in, or?
Yeah, there's still language in the draft document that addresses that, and that's further along. It's at the bottom of page 10 of the ordinance, and this language it was not changed, but it continues to say that properties with existing artificial turf that was previously installed in violation of the location, landscape area percentage, or quality requirements of this section may remain until it is required to be replaced, at which time full compliance with this section shall be required.
And how do we decide when it needs to be replaced?
So that would be essentially a code enforcement minimum property standard type of enforcement action. Right now we don't have anything on the books that addresses the quality of that particular application, so it would become something that the code enforcement officer would have to observe as falling below general minimum property standards. Like when you have a dirty roof or when you have cracked driveway, it would be cited. And if it's not voluntarily corrected, it would be brought to a hearing before the special magistrate for relief that way.
Okay, thank you.
I think on the ordinance, item C10 talks about it should be maintained in like new condition, and it kind of lists various things of how it should be maintained. So I would think that a property that is not in compliance, that's grandfathered in, would have to, that would maybe be the code enforcement part. When it starts to not look like new, they would have to fix it or replace it.
We would certainly use that as our guide in terms of bringing in enforcement action.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council comments?
None for me.
No? Any public comment?
Marie Sapiri, I live in the country club. You should reject this ordinance. Notwithstanding what community development said before, it was never legal under the code to have fake grass in any amount. All uses of fake grass right now are out of compliance. This proposal therefore dramatically expands from 0 to 10% the legal use of fake grass. And it also approves all of the existing fake grass that was out of compliance to begin with, which may carry with it legal liability for the village in the event of future floods, all of which were installed under a totally indefensible reading for a practice that is unequivocally harmful to the environment, unaesthetic, and that increases flood risk. At the last meeting, the mayor said that she expected that there was some sort of analysis and due diligence behind the recommended percentage that showed it is reasonable. That isn't the case. The draft ordinance that came to the LPA came from the attorney. The backup included no rationale for 10%, and there isn't one. 10% is not based on a sound analysis of the use of fake grass. It is also 1/3 of the required landscape area on each lot in R1. Our code currently promotes the use of real plants because they are necessary for a healthy community. The purpose of the landscaping division is, quote, to provide standards for the development of landscaping that adheres to the principles of Florida-friendly landscaping, end quote. The proposal is totally inconsistent with the code's objective. Here's an FAQ from the University of Florida. Quote, the Florida-friendly landscaping program does not consider artificial turf to be a Florida-friendly product. Synthetic turf surfaces have substantially higher surface temperatures than natural turf grasses, thereby destroying beneficial microbes in the soil. Artificial turf can contribute to the heat island effect, and it does not provide habitat for wildlife or beneficial insects, end quote. We should follow the sound reasoning of our current code in prescribing Florida-friendly and adhere to the program's expert guidance that fake grass is not acceptable. Unfortunately, the village has set a lamentably bad example and is currently in violation of its own code, which says all renovated village facility landscapes will be installed using Florida-friendly landscape materials. That section has been effective for a decade, and yet fake grass was installed in Constitution Park and not just as a putting green. Importantly, the village has significant flooding concerns already and is spending nearly $1 million, I believe, on a single flood mitigation project in one relatively small area of the village right now. By encouraging fake grass, which is installed by compacting the ground to make it much less permeable, you are increasing the flood risk. The many problems with fake grass are not solved by screening it from view. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, council?
I would like to say I have spoken before about I personally do not care for artificial turf. It's mostly for sanitation reasons as well as drainage. And I also have pet peeves, which are personal reasons, with overly paved or putting too many pavers down, basically an entire backyard, but that's something else in the code. And this is something we've been working on for a long time with landscaping percentages of different types, and the turf came up because it became very popular all of a sudden in front yards, and it was possibly becoming too much of the landscape. So this conversation came about that way. But for me, as much as I personally wouldn't want to put artificial turf in my yard in any place, our code needs to have some sort of update so we can address today what is occurring, and then we can always move forward something else in the future. But I do plan to push this through tonight because it's something that'll help specify, which is something we didn't have before. We didn't have any specifications before. So for me, this is a step forward in the right direction. That is all.
Yeah, I agree. I align with those comments. That's kind of why we went down this road, because we realized it wasn't defined and it really needed to be looked at, which often happens. You know, products become available and things become popular, and we have to, you know, consider them and do what we think is right for the village as a whole. So yeah, I'm in favor as well. Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, agenda item 17, ordinance number 14-23, which is the second reading of updating golf cart ordinance to comply with new state law.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. 14-23 is an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 46, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 46-2, use of golf carts upon designated village streets, to conform this section to recent changes in state law regarding age and form of identification for golf cart operators on public streets, providing that each and every other section, subsection of Chapter 46 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes. As you said, this is second reading.
Council, any comments, questions?
No, I don't have any comments.
Same.
Any public comment? All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, under new business, agenda item 18, variance number 02-23 for an application from Bagel Boys Tequesta for a liquor license.
And Mayor, before we begin, if I can do the preliminary quasi-judicial proceedings with your permission. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. If you're going to be testifying, offering evidence to the village council on this item, your testimony needs to be sworn. I can swear everybody in who will be speaking at the same time. If you will please stand, raise your right hands. And do you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Coming back to the council, if any of you have had any ex parte communications with the applicant, anybody on staff, anybody else, if you've done any site visits, consulted with any outside experts or anything of that sort regarding this application, those activities would need to be disclosed for the record at this time.
I have walked the site, the back alley and the front of one of the subject locations, and I've also spoken to two of the tenants that are currently in that plaza.
Thank you.
Not the applicant. I've not spoken to the applicant.
Same. I have not spoken to the applicant. I've walked the site. I've been to the location, and I have spoken with one of the tenants in the same center.
Thank you.
Not the applicant.
So not for this particular agenda item, but originally I am close with the owner of Bagel Boys, so their initial liquor license for Casa Cana, but nothing for this property.
Thank you.
Nothing to disclose.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Then we can proceed with this item.
Good evening, Jay Hupsch, Community Development Director, and the applicant, Seamus, is actually not here right now. I know he's planning to come. He may be at Casa Cana right now, working. So, Madam Mayor, and Village Attorney, if it's allowed, could we perhaps shift this in the agenda?
Sure.
To give him an opportunity to speak?
Yep, you have confirmation. He's still coming.
We saw him at like 4 o'clock. He actually brought a presentation in that he
Okay.
told us he was planning to give, so we expect him to be here. He may just be running a little bit late.
Okay, I find it reasonable to skip this and come back. What does council feel?
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, we'll move on.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 19, ordinance number 13-23, which is a first reading for, which one is this? Oh, multi-story residential buildings, required inspections to comply with state law.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 1323, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of DeQuesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 14, Buildings, Building Regulations, creating a new Article 9, Structural Milestone Inspections, to implement statutory requirements for certain multi-story, multifamily residential buildings provided by Section 553.899 Florida statutes, providing definitions, stating intent and authority, providing applicability in areas of enforcement, providing notice requirements, identifying the types of required inspections, defining the minimum content of inspection reports, designating posting and publishing requirements for inspection reports, establishing timelines for repairs, providing for enforcement, authorizing extensions, designating process for identifying and reporting unsafe structures, and for condemnation procedures, providing each and every other section, subsection of Chapter 14 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. All right, Lynn?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Village Council members. So the item before you concerns new law in Florida to improve building safety per Senate Bill 4-D, effective May 26, 2022, and Senate Bill 154, effective June 13, 2023, which created a mandatory statewide structural inspection program for residential, condominium, and cooperative buildings 3 stories or more in height, known as a milestone inspection. A milestone inspection means a structural inspection of a building, including an inspection of load-bearing elements and primary structural members and systems. The milestone inspection services can be provided by a licensed architect or engineer, or by a team of professionals with an architect or engineer acting as a registered design professional in charge of the inspection report. The purpose of the inspection is not intended to bring buildings up to code, but is intended to assess whether they are safe for continued use. Milestone inspections are divided into 2 phases. Phase 1, which consists of a visual inspection, and Phase 2, which is only required if the visual inspection in Phase 1 reveals a potential substantial deterioration or deficiency. In a Phase 1 visual inspection, the building is examined for any signs of substantial deterioration. Substantial structural deterioration means substantial structural distress that negatively affects a building's general structural condition and integrity. If a Phase 2 inspection is required, then a comprehensive examination is conducted to determine the extent of the issue and specify necessary repairs. So who must comply with milestone inspections? Well, buildings that are 30 years or older are required to complete a milestone inspection by December 31st of 2024, and subsequent inspections every 10 years. Also, per the Senate Bill 154, buildings situated near saltwater may require milestone inspections initially by December 31st of the year in which the building reaches 25 years of age, and subsequent inspections every 10 years thereafter, and this is the rule proposed to be followed by the village. Note that these requirements do not apply to a single family, 2-family, or 3-family dwelling with 3 or fewer habitable stories above ground. There are strict deadlines for condominium associations to complete Phase 1 milestone inspections. Associations have 180 days to initiate Phase 1 after receiving a notice by certified mail from the building official. If a Phase 2 inspection is required, within 180 days after submitting a Phase 1 inspection report, the architect or engineer performing the Phase 2 inspection must submit a Phase 2 progress report with a timeline for completion. Building owners facing challenges in completing milestone inspections on time can request an extension, which can be granted when an architect or engineer is under contract to perform the inspection and completion before the deadline is not feasible. Now, the legislation surrounding milestone inspections continues to evolve, and so remaining compliant and adaptable is important. In the wake of the Surfside tragedy, safety has become paramount, and these inspections are a critical step in safeguarding the public and maintaining property values. This item went before the LPA on October 19th, and they recommended approval. Our new building official, Wayne Cameron, is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lynn. Council?
And thank you for the information that we received with our inventory. So it looks like we have 24 properties, 14 of which are due for inspection in 2024 and 9 in 2025.
Correct.
If I missed it, what is the, what happens if they fall out of compliance? What if it's not done? Did I miss that? Is there a penalty, or is there any type of enforcement? What can be done?
So the enforcement mechanism as far as code enforcement will still be in effect, and that can be used. Obviously, it's going to be a question of trying to get voluntary compliance, but this is a state statute that needs to be followed, so they'll be violating state law.
Okay. Thank you.
No questions or comments? No.
Nothing, Mayor.
I have a couple. I was reading through the ordinance, and it references condominium or cooperative-owned buildings. Would that be apartments, the cooperative-owned buildings? Because otherwise, do apartment buildings have to comply with this as well?
Apartment buildings are not included at this point. I do believe legislature is in the next legislative session to address those issues. When they drafted it, and they were supposed to pick that up in the session in the summertime, and that didn't happen the way the language was. Also, certain commercial buildings may also fall into that category. So at this point, it's the co-ops, the ownership of individual units, which are the condos, are on the 3 stories and greater are on the, as the statute outlines.
Okay, so the state doesn't even address the apartment buildings.
They
right
haven't
now,
done
which
that
there
yet,
are
but-
some on, so
Yeah,
it's kind
they
of
are.
shocking that
Yes.
the condos would have to comply, but not apartment buildings. Okay.
They already recognize it, and there is language being discussed at the Florida Building Commission level to pick up those items.
Okay.
So I
And
can
then-
expect that to the next legislative session beginning in February.
Okay, great. And then what are our anticipated costs with this new ordinance? I mean, is this something that I'm assuming we absorb across entire tax base? We're not like, we don't have a fee schedule with this that we would charge each condo building for these inspections.
We're only charging a minor administrative fee, which is $75, just to track the initial milestone reports and track them in a way that it's retrievable per PCN number. Beyond that, it will be the repairs that will be taking place with the permit process. So right now, we're reviewing, evaluating, tracking this information as the milestone reports are coming in the phase 1. Phase 2 would be required should there be a need for repair, and that will be where the permitting costs would come in, and that's be more tedious in any event.
Okay, so with the application fee, and then if there has to be a permit,
Yeah, that will
we
be in
think
phase 2.
that would,
Yeah.
we recoup our costs that way?
Correct. For
Okay.
right now, it's really a tracking effort, making sure everybody's in compliance, and making sure that we do have status of what the condition of these buildings are. So it's really just getting that information in from the various property owners so that we can do an assessment and then have a plan, or their plan, how to remedy if there is a problem with these buildings.
Okay. And I know there's a structural integrity reserve study that needs to be done, and then they have to have a certain amount of reserves now. Is that something that we have to also look at, or is that done at a state level? Who's verifying that?
That's done with the state, on the state level, and that's a state requirement, so that's being handled through the HOAs and the mandatory reserve requirement that they need to be in compliance with. So we're not involved in that portion of it.
Okay. And then if there's a major issue, some of the timeframes listed in the ordinance were quite long, like 180 days. If there's a major issue, though, what's the process there? Because I'm assuming they don't have 180 days if there's a major issue. So
We still have the unsafe structure mechanism that's built into our current code, which can be used at any time. And as was done previously when the particular structure itself that Jose had red tagged based on the condition everybody's already aware of, and have since come into compliance by the repairs that were made. That procedure is still available to us to use should that need arise.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. Any public comment? No? Council? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. I see Locals Pub owner is here now, so we'll bounce back to agenda item 18, variance number 02-23.
Seamus, we had to defer your item just for a few minutes, so
no, I appreciate it.
take your time. Just going to give a brief introduction, and I know Seamus has a presentation as well. So this is a variance to sell intoxicating liquors, wines, and beverages for consumption within 860 feet of a church. So Bagel Boys is seeking a variance to provide liquor at 381 Tequesta Drive. The location was previously occupied by Vintage Wine and Charcuterie, which was granted a variance to sell beer and wine in 2019. That business recently closed. That variance does run with the property and it's still in effect, and so the applicant can sell beer and wine, but a variance is needed to sell the liquor because it's an expansion of, of his previously granted liquor variance. So he's currently operating 381 Tequesta Drive as Locals Pub and selling beer and wine there. He also operates Casa Cana at 377. As I said, they were previously granted a variance to provide full liquor, beer and wine in 2021. They're going to use that same license to sell liquor at Locals Pub. The businesses are connected by a shared courtyard in the rear of the building, so you can walk between the two. And I believe the applicant also has plans to possibly even punch through a wall to directly connect them at some point in the future. The state is in charge of licensure, and the applicant has informed village staff that the state will allow the license to be used by both businesses because of that connection. We do have to sign off on, give them zoning approval. So, once the variance is granted, we do have to sign off on something before he gets that. But ultimately, the state is in charge of whether or not, the license at 377 can be used at 381. Here's 6 kind of findings of fact that the village council has to look at in order to grant the variance. Special conditions, that it will not confer any special privileges, that it's the minimum possible variance, that it's going to be in harmony with the general intent of the village code, and then it's not going to be detrimental to public welfare. Like I said, Seamus has a presentation he's going to give, and I'm happy to answer any questions later.
And sir, before you begin, I do need to swear you in.
Sure.
If you'll raise your right hand, you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
First of all, apologies for being late. My daughter was sick and I had to run up. Thought I'd be good. I was a little behind. So I should say that. Secondly, yeah, presentations, probably an oversell, but I do just have a little bit of things just so you guys can follow along on what we are planning on doing and what we'd like to do there. So what we basically created, I started with our offerings, right? So what we're essentially trying to create is, in season, we run into like a big problem last year where we go on wait because it's so, Tequesta's so odd where it was like so seasonal for us, where in the summers it was completely dead, and then in season we're absolutely slammed. And what we ended up running into quite frequently was guests you'd put them on a wait, and then they would be, there's nothing really to do. They would just leave, So kind of it's always a spot I love to visit. I should say that too. Like I used to always go there after Casa Cana closed, and I always kind of liked how quaint and cozy the whole place was. And my wife and I, who runs the business with me, we thought it'd be the perfect spot for people to kind of go and relax and wait until their table's ready, so that they wouldn't leave. So what we kind of added to his space is we have some like bar games. There's a pool table. There's TVs. It's a bar, very kind of relaxed atmosphere, and that's kind of the concept. Other things we'll be doing there is private events. We will do some private events if people want to rent it out or something like that, or have a party or whatever, which is kind of what we were looking towards. And like I mentioned, we have bar games, things like that. Okay, so why liquor? So I basically put that up there as like, why do we need to have the spirits, I don't think the first point's necessarily worth going over, but just the fact of the matter, from a business standpoint, it does really hinder us to not be able to offer spirits, just like I put up there, I didn't, source or anything, but 31% of customers, their main option that they would choose is liquor. So us not having that immediately kind of puts us at a really negative and uncomfortable spot. as small business owners and operators, my wife and I make it quite difficult for us to kind of stay in business and not be able to offer that. I've touched on private events as well. So we have multiple private events already scheduled for this year where people buy out, Casa Cana for the evening, and they might have their Christmas party or whatever there. We do run in this situation where we are almost at capacity or over capacity, where we've kind of touched base with these guests and they're willing to do it if the overflow could go into Locals Pub, and it kind of gives us some more seating and areas to use. Some other issues of why we thought we definitely need liquor, like I kind of put it up there, or spirits. How to control it if we didn't, right, is something we were a little bit concerned about. Like, what do I do during one of these events if someone walks over there with a cocktail, a margarita, or something to that extent, or even if, as we connect the two places, as people go back and forth, monitoring exactly what they're drinking and trying to keep it in what's exactly in that cup at all times, just makes it kind of difficult to control. And lastly, kind of like what I touched about on there is like our main goal with opening it is to create like a destination for like our local residents. We really always have kind of seen that area where we're located, where Casa Cana is, Gallery Grill is, now the ice cream place, as like, I guess, a mini downtown. Like Tequesta, it's right in the heart, it's right there. It's kind of has a lot of different things in it now. And where we see it, where we want like, our quote vision to go is a nice cohesive space which attaches between the two places where people can walk back and forth. And it's, I don't know, I think it's a super cool concept. They can go listen to live music and get kind of that chill environment next door, or they could be at Casa Cana and kind of enjoy, a nice meal, if you will. As far as like the legality, slightly paraphrased on the top, but more or less from the state. Now, again, I guess obviously this is more of a state issue, but if you can enter one dominion and then completely exit another one without encountering another business, you theoretically are allowed to operate under the same one. We have been, I shouldn't say approved, I should say verbally approved by the DPVR down in West Palm Beach, provided we get signed off on zoning from the Village of Tequesta and getting our variance. I did include a couple other ones in case it was kind of foreign for people who may not, because I guess a lot of it too is like, no one knows that other places do this, right? Like, it's not like the Beacon and Topside are like advertising that they share a liquor license between their upstairs restaurant, Topside, and the downstairs, establishment, the Beacon. Or, Food Shack. That's originally how I kind of came up with the idea. I called Mike Moore, the owner, and was interested in it and kind of talked to him about a lot of that different stuff. And so what I did is I pulled 3 different examples that all share, but at the same time, they're different. Meaning, Food Shack and Max's lineup is completely connected, right? There's a wall, but they did do a pass-through, so it's connected. Then you have Beacon and Topside, which one is downstairs. There is no official connection. The other one is upstairs. And then you have the Dubliner and Kapow, which is down south a little bit, and they're literally across an alley from each other. So you have like the restaurant, alley, another restaurant, but there's no other businesses in between them, so you can still pass through without, like I said, dominion to dominion, as they call it. I should mention this too. This is kind of something I really wanted to put a lot of focus on, because I don't want it to be like misconstrued of like what the spot intentions are, what the concept's intentions are, what we're actually planning on doing there. So I kind of put what we are not. We are not a party spot, right? Extension of our spot is aimed at the community in our plaza, providing what we believe the community is missing and wanting: a chill local hangout for residents to watch a game or listen to live music or shoot some pool with friends and neighbors. We're also not a late night spot. As our hours reflect, we're not attempting to turn this into some late night, open till 2 a.m. dive bar. As I mentioned earlier, my wife and I do own and operate the restaurant. We have 3 young kids, hence why I was late to the meeting today. And, we're involved in the running of the restaurant, so we can't be there late at night. And I kind of also own breakfast, 2 breakfast restaurants. It's not conducive for my schedule either. And anytime we kind of had something where things got a little bit late, like at Casa Cana for like an event before, it was still within our hours, but it's just not what we wanted to kind of bring into the plaza, so to speak. We don't think it brings any value. I did kind of finish it with what I consider a pretty good reputation that we have. the first one I touched on is just anything that anyone asks, any events, whether it's anything going on within the village, we're always completely willing to, help out, donate, et cetera. I do the same thing with my restaurants in Jupiter all the time. All of our meat, seafood, things like that, again, just going back into the, a big important aspect for us is also supporting the local establishments, local clients, local guests, whatever you want to call it as well. We've also never had one single noise complaint or any other issues or altercations within the business requiring us to contact the PD. Many of them come in and dine as well in the evenings. Something else we're very strict about is IDing those under 30. We've had 0 complaints filed against us for over serving or serving any minors or anything like that. We do take that extremely seriously. Partly a lot of it is also a liability issue, to be honest, but regardless, we are very strict with our bartenders on that and we have every single one of them do their state, which isn't a necessary thing, but their certification from the state for alcohol. We also offer assistance to any customers who we seem unfit to drive. We've done that probably 3 or 4 times now, where we've been the ones to contact the Uber, make sure that they don't drive. We pay for the Uber if they need us to, whatever. That's never an issue at all. Good Shepherd's located directly behind us. I was just in there today, chatting with them for a little while, and we've never had any issues whatsoever with them. We have a pretty, amicable relationship with them behind us also. And lastly, again, just back to our reputation, one thing, a big push for us is like encouraging our also Plaza members, the other restaurants or businesses and things like that, and it is to work towards like this goal of making the Plaza kind of what we want it to be, which is a very kind of fun downtown, if you will, area. Local events, we've had parties or local events to celebrate our stuff. We always invite anyone in our Plaza, whether it's the Yoga Studio or it's Gallery Grill or it's Wine Proxy, all people we've invited to participate as well. Yeah, it was a short one, but that was the last slide. Questions?
Thank you. Council, comments, questions?
Yes, thank you, Seamus, for
Sure.
coming in and doing this, and thank you for being a business in Tequesta. We value, our independent owners like yourself.
Yeah,
and
thanks
we
for having me.
appreciate that and want to do what we can to help everybody survive. What are the hours at Casa Cana?
We're open till 11 o'clock on Friday, Saturday in season, and 10 o'clock in the summertime, and 10 o'clock during the week.
And what are the hours of local currently and what you anticipate?
We want to open till midnight on Friday and Saturday, and during the week, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Sunday as well, 10 o'clock.
Have you received complaints or heard from your neighbors in the plaza about bottles and cigarette butts and messes left there in the evenings? Because I know several of the women that go to yoga and the men that go to yoga have kind of reached out to me and said that that little hallway, that breezeway has been messy and it appears like it's coming from your restaurant. I have not seen it, but have you heard those complaints?
I have not. I am friends with with Chelsea, and I haven't heard that at all. I'm a member there too, so I'm terrible at it. I just started, but I do go there also. Mm-hmm. And even something recently, like we had a band that was playing in the courtyard. They're supposed to play in the courtyard. I arranged it with them that they didn't have any classes during that time or anything like that, because I didn't want to interfere, obviously, with the yoga thing. Then it turns out they actually had a pop-up where they had someone doing a later night class at 7:30. In that case, I brought my band. I just said, that's fine. Brought the band inside. We ended up doing it inside, even though we didn't necessarily have the space for it. So we try to literally do everything we can to kind of circumvent any of those issues they might have.
Your 4COP SFS license is licensed to 375 and 377 and locals, which you, in your own presentation, said it's two fun yet two totally different experiences. So are we trying to use the same liquor license that doesn't attach to 381, but you're saying it can because of the door, the wall that you've knocked out, or is it the back patio?
It's either. Currently, it's the back patio. It will eventually, I guess, be the door. But, state law-wise, the only thing that technically matters is if you can enter from the front of your restaurant and exit from the back of your restaurant without encountering any other businesses.
If you didn't knock that wall out, would you connect the two? Would people and clients walk out the back of your restaurant, go through? And I haven't seen the back of it.
Yeah, I actually left the drawing in the car, actually. But so where the path would be to go back and forth is before you hit the back patio. So that would be ideal, because when it's raining or something like that, we would rather obviously do that. And I also think it would kind of add to the experience and make it something unique. But as far as us obtaining our liquor license, it's not a necessity.
And because of, now, if I did my research today, the 4 COP SFS license, that requires you have to have 2,500 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have to be able to serve 150 people at one time.
Yeah, they've changed those a little bit, but yeah, more or less, it's 120 now.
Yeah, and you have the 51% threshold for the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant. And we're saying that Casa Cana is going to provide all those requirements for locals. Locals doesn't mean.
Well, I wouldn't say Casa Cana is providing them for locals, right? But I would say the overall corporation would still have more than 50% in food, yes, and we still obviously meet the other stipulations as far as like square footage and things like that. Yeah.
Because of Casa Cana, not because of locals.
Correct.
Locals doesn't meet it. Yeah, I struggle with this, Seamus, only because it seems like we're trying to take something that was operating, maybe not in your business model, but when we had beer and wine with Vintage Wine and Charcuterie, maybe it didn't work for their business model. I don't know why they're not here any longer. But it seemed, and now we're calling it two different unique experiences. Local dive bar, used that word before, seems to be the decor, the vibe, everything seems to be different than Casa Cana, but yet we're trying to say it is Casa Cana, right?
I'm not trying to say it is Casa Cana. I'm trying to say it's under the same corporation as Casa Cana, but it's two different DBAs. So we already have, just like, for example, Casa Cana is not Casa Cana, it's Bega Boys of Tequesta, LLC.
Right.
Right, but I'm not trying to say it's Bega Boys of Tequesta. The DBA is Casa Cana. So it's similar in that vein.
Yeah. So where I stand on this, and I look forward to hearing from my fellow council members, is that I've got a vision for Tequesta, and I love the independent people, and I like the beer and the wine that was there, and I would like to see you continue to serve beer and wine. I know that's not part of what your
It'll still be
your
there,
business
but yeah.
model is, beer and wine, but adding alcohol and liquor. I don't like the fact that one restaurant's going to close who technically owns again, go back to the corporate entity. One building's going to close at 11, and we're going to serve liquor out of the other one until midnight. And is that really? I don't know if that's what I'm looking for. Is to have, people smoking cigarettes out front and having liquor at noon or at midnight, and then walk into the parking lot next door of the church. And I don't know. You said there's been no complaints in that, and I applaud you for that. But I just have a concern that it seems like we're trying to make something fit that doesn't fit. And it's just not my vision for that part of Tequesta and that vision and that pocket. So I'm having some concerns with this. So, but just want
I
to
would
hear
love
what my
to
fellow
address
council members
them. I mean, what is, I guess my question would be, if they were closed at the same exact time, does that change anything?
It might be a condition of approval that I'd be agreeable to.
Like, I'm amenable to closing, might actually be better for me, to be honest with you, but closing at 11 o'clock, the same exact time as Casa Cana.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to see you extend Casa Cana just so you can serve liquor out the back door somewhere else. So these are just my concerns. I want to be very transparent with you. So
No, I appreciate it. I'm trying to address them.
and you don't have to answer them all right now. I know there's going to be there might be
Sure.
other questions.
Is there anything, I
Right.
can
So that's
go
all I
back to
have.
it. I have plenty to say to it.
Mayor, do you both mind going first? I'm still kind of collecting my.
Anyone can speak. If you're not ready, Vice Mayor, I have questions, so I'll go ahead. I usually speak last.
No, I actually think Mr. Sartori made some good points. I know when you opened up the Locals Pub, you did like a soft opening, and we did promote in our communities that first football night you were doing, and people were very excited about having like a nice, quiet, like if we know it's there kind of thing, and it's not on the main road. It is hidden. I think if it's possible to kind of keep it hidden and local, I think that's a win.
And that's one thing we've talked to a lot of our, like, for example, if you notice, there's been no marketing or anything done for it, right? Like our whole like vision of it was like this little hidden nook. And I mean, at the same time too, I'm also a business person. Like, it can't be, no one can find it. I still have to survive, right? So I still have to pay rent. I still have to pay employees. I still have to take care of all these things. So yes, in terms of that was great, and it was great. Everyone helped promote it and things like that. But I'll tell you, the number one complaint we receive is like, a lot of people just don't drink beer and wine. Like 31% of the people.
I don't drink at all, so.
I do. Yeah.
I would appreciate if you serve something other than that. That's my issue with another place in Tequesta, is they don't even serve water. But
I do have water. You're good there. If you want water, it's right out of the gun. We're good there.
my point is, what I like about it, that it's not trying to be like a Bradley's. right?
Yeah,
It's not
trust me,
becoming
yes.
like a pub. So, and I know you personally, and I know your style. What I do love about you as a business owner is I know you do your due diligence. You always come in with presentations, and you clearly always try to cover every angle, including stuff from the state, and I do appreciate that. I will say that, I will vouch for that. Seamus does do a good job at making sure he's trying to do the best for
Yeah.
Tequesta and not harm our community. The lateness thing, I'm 50-50 on it. We definitely don't need anything open till 2, 3 a.m.
Right.
I could, midnight maybe, but maybe we could wiggle and just match it to Corsicana. As far as the liquor, I totally get, there is just that weird issue of one person walking from that business to that business and you can't go there. It's kind of like we can't walk outside with the cup, but it gets complicated. So I understand it would make the success of both of them tied together. For me, as a resident's point of view, I think it'd be much more easier on them. You don't have to dress them up so many rules, and you can do this, not that. I'm okay with if you served liquor, spirits at the pub. I can tell you the biggest concern will be the clean environments. I know you guys do a good job. So far, your track record at Corsicana is great. I don't think PD ever gives us reports of crazy people hanging out in the shopping center or getting in fights or anything like that. So if you could just continue that good behavior and training with your staff, that if you start to recognize something happening, address it before
Sure.
it becomes an issue, whether it's getting someone a ride, or if you start to see a mess, which if that is becoming an issue, your staff maybe just have to make sure they clean up at the end of the night and just make sure you have respect for the property. It's really
Yeah,
only
I
two
mean-
things I could see maybe being a hiccup is the cleanliness and the control of the behavior.
And again, I think it's important to note kind of why I really tried to hammer in on that earlier in my presentation. Like, this isn't a party crazy spot, right? It's not DJs coming in. It's nice, chill, local live musicians, all local musicians that we bring in there. If we would reach out to the landlord of the property, he would definitely tell you I've never had one issue with him either, especially as far as cleanliness or anything. That's the first time I've ever heard that. We even clean that restroom that we share with them. I tell Chelsea not to worry about it, and I have our guys actually clean the full restroom each day because I know probably more of our people use it. There's plenty of people that smoke that are servers and things in the restaurants, but in reality, I don't know, maybe it's more my people that were in there, I'm not sure. I will say, everyone that's pretty much goes in there are many of the same faces I see at Corsicana who kind of float back and forth, and they're excited about it. It was like, originally I always wanted to do something with the space, right? Because I kind of have been doing tons of research on this, and I realized it was legal within the state and stuff like that. I'm like, great, And I wanted to originally do a speakeasy, and after being in this, I'm a local myself, but not from Tequesta, but right around the bend, and the one thing I realized that people really wanted wasn't a speakeasy, wasn't a frickin' nightclub. It was a fun, chill spot to hang out with your neighbors, watch the game, play pool, listen to live music, and take it easy. There's only 25 seats in the restaurant. Purposely, we kept it very small like that. We removed all the seating from the back and replaced it with a pool table and, Jenga, So I don't want this to turn into this thing where I'm trying to sneak in some type of party crazy environment, right? Like I mentioned, I have 3 kids myself. I don't even have a general manager at the store, right? So I'm there. I watch it, I manage it, or my wife watches it and my wife manages it. We're not trying to turn this into something. I don't want this conversation I don't want to portray it as if that's what it actually is.
Okay. As of right now, I'm leaning towards being okay with the use of liquor spirits in that second property, storefront, whatever you want to call it. Maybe the time frame you start closing, matching Corsicana, then from there, if everything's working out, maybe you can graduate half an hour here, half an hour there. What was the other thing I want to tell you?
Sure.
I don't remember. Oh,
Okay.
The only other thing, and it's not negative, but if you're going to do football games, you have to do both FSU and Gators.
Yeah, we've gotten some pushback on that for sure. Yeah,
Is that when we
was-
promoted that first night, they were a
I don't
little
have a
upset.
dog in it.
Wait, okay.
Yeah.
I went to art school. I didn't get a football
Yeah,
team.
I'm a
But
community college kid, so I don't have any of them,
So-
right? I don't think that would really bring a lot of people
I
in,
think
though,
it
so I
could
had to go towards something else.
I think it'd be a really cool, fun place. Obviously, you have a good track record. Hopefully it stays in place with that. And personally, too, without saying too much more about it, it's right there. It's in the same shopping center. There's something worse across the street that I have more concerns about. So as of right now, I'm fine with the liquor.
You got it.
Okay. So originally, I mean, I, had some of the thoughts that have already been brought up here, but I always try to circle back on exactly what we're considering here. And so this variance is because of the location and proximity with church, schools, youth centers. So, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, if they were not within a location, the proximity of those types of establishments, would we even be considering this liquor license?
No, if the distance is the issue that requires it to be a variance, our code creates that distance separation. If that wasn't an issue, then they would strictly be dealing with the state with getting whatever permitting that they needed to get.
Okay, so I keep that in mind. We wouldn't even be seeing this if it wasn't in proximity to some of those locations like Good Shepherd, which is directly behind the plaza. And so then otherwise, our code says on Fridays and Saturdays that any kind of alcohol can be served till 1 a.m. and then the other nights of the week till 12 a.m. So again, if this wasn't a variance because of location, they would be able to do that without coming before council. So it brings me back to what we are actually looking at with this variance is location to the church, the Good Shepherd behind it, and I think the Baptist church, there's a couple, and even Lighthouse Art Gallery, I think, is listed on there. So that being said, I'm kind of looking at this, what is my issue with them having a liquor license, considering the location to those establishments? And as of now, you are not open for lunch, correct?
Correct.
Do you have future plans to open for lunch?
No.
So I think about that, a lot of those facilities, they are being used during the day, so they won't be open and serving liquor during the day when children will be in school behind you in Good Shepherd. There are other businesses in the area that do serve, I don't know about liquor, but for sure beer and wine during lunch. So again, these are all factors I'm thinking of to make the right decision, what I feel is the right decision up here. And then your concept of some of the examples you gave of other restaurants that share a liquor license or have, 2 spaces. I know there's other restaurants in the North County that, I don't know if they share a liquor license, but they have separate spaces that are overflow for kind of what you described. So that's not an uncommon theme either. So kind of just putting those facts and what we're really looking at, to me, I personally, as of now, don't see a reason why not to approve this or give them any kind of restrictions with hours.
I should also mention that I did get approval again from Good Shepherd and the Baptist Church as well. I did double check with them even. I don't know if it was part of it for this one, but I did get another signed letter from both of them as well for this.
Okay, perfect. That was going to be my question because you mentioned you'd gone in to speak with Good Shepherd, so no
Yeah,
issues
Yeah, I have their letterhead, like a signed thing.
Okay.
Same thing with the Baptist Church.
Okay, so thank you. I've collected my thoughts. So first off, Locals Pub, great spot, man. I've been in there. I think it's I love what you've done with the space. I actually had never been in there prior to being Locals, unfortunately, but and it's the way you described it. I think it's certainly unique to our village, and obviously we want you to be successful. So just 2 concerns, and it's doesn't mean anything. It's just something I've been kind of thinking about, and this is more, I guess, particularly a question. So once we grant a variance as council, let's just say hypothetically, this turned into not what you're intending, but let's say it turned into a party spot, and at that point, once we've granted a variance, what authority do we have at that point?
So variances run with the land. Once
Yeah.
it's granted, it is vested with that land unless it's abandoned or.
Okay.
In terms of answering your specific question, if there were noise ordinance violations or and any other type of nuisance violation, those could be handled either through code enforcement or law enforcement, depending on what it might be.
Okay, cool. And then the second, and there's already, the irony of all of this is there's already, we've granted similar variances in the past, a little different, right, in the same center. So it's kind of hard to sit up here and argue as to why this shouldn't happen. Other than it being it's not a purely restaurant use, but with its relationship with Casacania, then perhaps it is. But so that leaves me with, Rick brought up something interesting that actually made me a little more comfortable with it. I personally really like the idea of having both of them close at the same time. My biggest concern going into this was the hours. That was really it. I mean, I've been to Casacania a lot. Awesome, love it. Gallery Grill serves out liquor, but they both close at a reasonable hour. So I wasn't sure. I'm glad when you said midnight initially, and that you were open to the idea of 11 if possible. Because the reality is liquor can change things. I mean, if people are going to a restaurant, they can drink as much liquor at a restaurant as they can at a bar. I guess it doesn't really matter, but it does change things a little bit. But that being said, with the potential condition of having both close at the same time, and then definitely not being open during the school church hours just because of its proximity, and definitely if it stays the way you describe it, because I love the way you describe it, the fun, chill spot where residents from our village can hang out. I mean, who doesn't want that? I'm all for it. So that's the part I'm kind of wrapping my head around right now is the hours. I don't want to place any unreasonable restrictions. If it just doesn't make sense to have them close at 11, I'll consider it. But I think having that makes me feel a little more comfortable about it, having both close at the same time, that being 11 o'clock. But otherwise, I don't have any other comments. I think you guys are doing a great job so far. Seems to be really successful so far, which is great. Every time I've been there, it's been pretty crowded. So that's where I'm at right now.
Can I ask a question from my fellow peeps that watch football? Do weekend games on Friday and Saturdays ever start at 8?
That was my one thing was going to be the only issue with 11 o'clock close is, for example, and it's close, right? It's like the games might finish at 11:15 or something like that if you have an evening game, right? Or generally speaking, I do my live music from 8 to 11. A hard stop at 11. Like I said, we can. It's very important for me, right? So if that's a necessity to change the time, I'm definitely willing to do it. That being said, just from a business standpoint, it does. There's a couple things that are a little bit more difficult. And again, I'm not trying to stay open until 2. I was just trying to give myself kind of a buffer. I mean, we don't even barely have anyone at that time anyway, unless there's a game, right? And it's only Fridays and Saturdays that we do it at that time. Fridays because we have music till 11 o'clock. And then Saturdays, a lot of times night games and things like that.
So as everyone's been chit-chatting up here, I'm kind of thinking the Friday and Saturday till midnight, and if the game ends and music stops at 11, I mean, it's possible for a business owner, if there's only 1 or 2 people in there to say, last call, we're done. It's possible for a business owner to actually close a little bit early if they make the good judgment. That's on them, though. But I'm kind of open to the Friday and Saturday, at least. Not every day.
I don't want to be there every day.
Okay.
It's not happening.
I'm just trying to think of your purpose. If you have a game on, I mean, that's really not fun. You make someone come in at 8 p.m., they sit there for 3 hours.
Well, it's funny because people were complaining about Duffy's with that because they were like, you go to Duffy's at 8:15, they told you got to get out at 11 o'clock. It was like, there's the last 2 minutes of the game, or whatever. So that was like, and I was like, no, we're up until 12. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh shit, I got up until 12. But again, if that's something that's going to be like a requirement for us to be able to get the variance, then I'm amenable to that. I'm not opposed to it.
So again, sorry, Councilmember Sidwell. I'm trying to understand from my fellow council members how does restricting the evening time, how does that tie to the variance of the location and the proximity of the establishments that are requiring this variance when a business that is not in these locations can operate till 1 a.m. and serve alcohol to 1 a.m.? So I'm trying to understand that, and then, because I mean, I had a lot of the same exact thoughts you guys did. So I went through this whole process, but then I kind of, again, like, went to really hone in on what is the purpose of the variance. And then something else that crossed my mind is our public safety department is literally right next door to that plaza. So, like, I can't imagine there's going to be shenanigans when our public safety department is literally next door. Maybe I'm wrong, but I literally even thought of that, right? Like, the proximity to the public safety building. So I'm just trying to understand why we think we should be restricting the hours. Lunchtime, I could understand because you have children at school, you know, during the week right behind it.
Yeah.
So I could totally understand and get on board on saying, you know, you can't serve it. If you were ever to open during lunch, maybe no liquor during lunch. Beer and wine, fine, because I know a lot of other establishments in the area do, but not liquor. So I'm just trying to understand the restrictions in the evening.
We all up here have our own vision of what we think Tequesta is and what it, in different parts, and we have overlays that we've debated continuously about what should go where. And in this part of our village, I believe that Casa Cana and what the clientele that goes for Casa Cana for dinner and a date night and has a couple drinks, get in their car and they go home. Somebody goes to a football game at 8 o'clock and they start pounding Jack on the rocks for 3 hours. I have a concern with that. And I think, while I want to, and I'll use the word dive because I think you've used it the first time, I want a bar like this. I love its location where it's at. My concern is that when we when we're making a variance and an exception to knock a hole in a wall or use a back patio that nobody would ever use anyway to connect, that we're creating an opportunity to overserve people, and it's incumbent upon Seamus and his staff to do that. But it's like I have a concern when we serve. If I'm going to go to locals, I want to have a couple beers, and if my wife goes, have a couple glasses of wine and watch football. But I don't want to have a location. This is not, when I call this downtown or the heart of Tequesta, it's not where I want to have people drinking liquor till midnight. It's just my vision. It's nothing against the business model that works for Seamus, but it's not my vision. I've got a vision of Tequesta that I'm defending, and that's why I'm sitting up here, is because I have a vision of truly Tequesta. And I wish you were on US 1.
Yeah, I guess.
Because my vision is for that pocket is not to have people, the potential of doing shots with the bartender.
So you don't want people basically having liquor in the evening, more or less, right, past 11, or during the daytime, right?
I'd like to see it say just beer and wine. If I had my druthers, it's just beer and wine, because that's my vision. And this is a variance, so I'm able to have an opinion on why I would grant or deny a variance. And this is solely based on my vision for what I feel is the best for the village of Tequesta in that location. And I hope I tried to explain that. I mean, I'd love to go there and watch football and go play pool. When my son comes into town from Denver, my adult son, go hang out and have a couple beers. But I don't want people sitting there watching football, because I think it's a different crowd that's going to show up late night at a bar to watch football that would be having a few drinks at dinner. And it's just my opinion, and that's why. And we're not going to see alike, but that's not my vision for the village of Tequesta. That's why.
And could I ask, are you okay with the grill in the plaza offering liquor in the evening? Gallery Grill?
No, they're not opening till 12 o'clock, are they?
No.
Okay. I guess you could consider it a sports bar because there's TVs and people go there.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
A little bit of drinking because of the closing time, but I'm not trying to make you like everybody in that plaza. I'm just saying I think we're trying to make something fit, and that's my concern here, is that we're trying to make it fit by a back door.
So if there was if it was just say it was a quota liquor license, which is the one you have to buy. Right. You can't qualify for it with square footage or anything like that, seats, right? If it were a quota license and it didn't have anything to do with an attachment, would you then be okay with it serving liquor?
Well, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd have the ability to give you my opinion on that, because if there was no village restriction, we're here because you're within 1,000 feet from 2 churches, a rec center, and an art studio. That's why we're here. And this is my concern. So if I have an opinion on what can go there, that's why I'm giving you my opinion. But if you were somewhere else and those other establishments, if we didn't have a code, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Sure.
Again, this is solely based on Rick Sartori and my personal vision for the village. No offense to your business model or anything else, just what I want to see in our village.
Any other council comments?
Public comment? Is that?
Sure. Yeah. All right,
Just curious.
I think we'll take public comment now.
Do I stay up for it?
No, if we have more questions after public comment, we'll call you back
Okay.
up. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, any public comment? No, we have no public comment. Any other council comments?
I do. I know it was brought up, Keith, for any business that starts to have nuisances and stuff like that, do we have a number on that? Like after X amount of reports, then the business gets temporarily closed or?
No, I don't think we have anything that would shut the business down, but there are noise ordinance violations would have code enforcement implications in terms of fines.
So it's just fines. They could pay years and
Right.
years of nuisances.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
And, we have business tax code, but business tax is not a regulatory tool. It's strictly a revenue generator. You're not legally allowed to regulate conduct through the business tax, so that's why we have our nuisance codes.
Any other council comments, discussion?
No, just if we were going to consider putting a condition on the variance, what are the procedural, how does that,
Well, a motion to approve with a condition would be a motion to approve
Yeah.
with the following condition. Legally, conditions of approval should be reasonably related to the request that's being made and should be proportional in scale to the request that's being made. So, for example, a condition that deals with how the business operates during hours when the church or the school are operating clearly is related, directly related to the variance that's being requested. And it's, in my opinion, proportional. That you're dealing with the exact issue that's before you. You conversely, in an extreme example, you couldn't require them to, donate a bunch of money to the fire department for anything. That's completely unrelated and not relevant to the variance. So really, generally, that's how a condition of approval should be made, and those are the general legal parameters within which a condition can be made.
So, that being said, the midnight I think is reasonable, particularly with the football. I hadn't even thought about the football thing. That just creates an awkward scenario. More importantly, largely because my daughter goes to school right behind there, is the daytime hours. That's my, and I don't think you intend on doing that. That'd be hard for you.
No, I don't want
Yeah. So if I were to make a motion for a condition, it would be that, and then midnight, which Seamus has already said that's his intention, but, so, yeah, okay.
So how would we define those hours for
School hours.
daytime school hours? Or
Yeah,
Do we know the hours that the schools or the school in question operates?
well, then there's the rec
Most
center.
clubs even leave about 3:30.
that's,
That's a pretty standard. And it's only to be on a Friday if he's only looking for, Friday and Saturday.
yeah.
What about? There's children activities and after-school programs at the art gallery and the rec center too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, those
They're there.
those are concerns, but to me, just the closeness of Good Shepherd is the one I'm really, and forget the fact that my daughter goes there. It's so close. Those are across. You'd have to stray pretty far, a decent amount of way. Whereas if you walk right through the courtyard, you're in Good Shepherd's parking lot. So that's kind of my main.
They have 2- and 3-year-olds. So
Yeah.
that's,
And I doubt anything would happen, but God, if people were drinking all day and they wander in, stuff happens. That's my only concern during the day. And then the midnight thing, as my mom always says, nothing good ever happens after midnight. So I think that's reasonable.
a lot of truth to that.
There's so much truth to that. But, and I also don't want to so you can't do happy hour. So I'm not trying to make it 5 to midnight, it should be something like 3:30 sounds reasonable.
what time do you open now? Is it 4?
4.
Should we just make it no
4?
sales before, no liquor sales before 4?
It's 4 to midnight.
Okay with that.
If
Monday
you were
through Friday, right?
Monday through Friday, if you were to ever
Yeah, yeah.
open during lunch.
Right.
Yeah. That definitely helps me just be more comfortable with it. And I think, I just want to reiterate, I'm not trying to be a pain here. I think these are things that our village, our residents are probably hopefully thinking about. I honestly I was hoping to glean some of that from public comment, but we didn't get any. But
You want to sum up that motion?
Oh,
So no
geez.
liquor sales before 4 p.m.
motion for no liquor sales before 4 p.m. or after midnight, Monday through Friday.
I would, if I could lead, I can't make the motion. I think it would be
Word
no
this.
liquor sales Monday through Friday before 4 p.m.
I
And
don't know what I
then,
said, but that was.
and then, well, the evening, because you're, during the week, Monday through Thursday, how late are you open? Yeah, so I think oh, look at that, thank you.
Make sure it's,
All right, do you mind?
it's
actually What?
I'm going to make a motion.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion's gonna be to approve with Monday through Friday, no liquor sales before 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday to close at 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday can close at midnight. Yeah?
Sounds right.
Okay.
Nailed it.
Thanks for putting that up, that's helpful.
Can I get a second?
Sunday.
Oh, they're open Sunday too?
Sunday, on the bottom.
Oh.
Thanks,
Okay.
audience.
Continuing on that motion, Sunday. Oh. What do you guys want to do before 4 p.m. on that one?
Oh,
I know, I'm thinking about that.
I don't have a huge issue with that. I'm more thinking about the kids.
All right, we'll put Sunday in the motion from noon to 10 for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you guys get all that?
I have that as the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
Second.
All in favor?
Well, but, and just
Cool.
before you vote,
Yeah.
if I wanted to formally ask the applicant if you're in agreement with those conditions of approval. Okay.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, did you get all that?
3-1. I will have the order prepared right away.
All right, thank you. Moving on, let me see, I believe we're on agenda item 20 now. Ordinance number 15-23. First reading of adding regulations for temporary shelters following a natural emergency to comply with state law.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in our parade of preemption ordinances, Ordinance 1523, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of DeQuesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 14, Buildings, Building Regulations, Article 8, Construction Site Maintenance, by creating a new Section 14183, Temporary Shelter Regulations, to provide regulations for the placement and use of temporary shelter structures on residential lots under limited circumstances following natural emergencies, providing each and every other section, subsection, of Chapter 14 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you.
Hello again, Madam Mayor, Village Council. Just wanted to let you know, Mr. Davis, that there is one typo in Section 1 on page 1. It should be 14-183, not 78. And I did speak to Dylan about that, so.
We can fix that for
Yeah,
second reading.
Thank you. So the item before you regards a new Village of DeQuesta Code section in response to Senate Bill 250, which provides that local governments may not prohibit the placement of one temporary shelter on residential property for a period of 36 months following a declaration of a state of emergency for a natural emergency. Senate Bill 250 became effective July 1st, 2023. The background for this item is that in September and November 2022, Florida was hit with historic hurricanes, Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole, which left many municipalities flooded and damaged. The state legislature responded with Senate Bill 250 for the purpose of helping Florida recover structurally and financially in the wake of these natural disasters and help prepare for future natural emergencies. The new Village Code Section 14-183 includes the required provisions of Senate Bill 250, codified in Florida Statute Section 166.0335, In a nutshell, the new provisions are that a temporary shelter can be placed on residential property if the permanent residential structure is damaged and rendered uninhabitable during a natural emergency for which the governor declared a state of emergency. Such temporary shelter includes a recreational vehicle, trailer, or other similar shelter. There are no setback requirements for the temporary shelter, and it can remain for up to 36 months after the date of the declaration or until a certificate of occupancy is issued for the permanent residential structure, whichever occurs first. The following circumstances must apply. The resident must make a good faith effort to rebuild or renovate. The temporary shelter must be connected to water and electric utilities. The temporary shelter must not present a threat to health and human safety, and the resident must live in the temporary shelter. And so in practical terms, before the resident can place a temporary shelter on their property, the resident must first either submit evidence of a construction loan, submit a plan of design to the building department, or submit for a building permit. This item went before the LPA on October 19th, and they recommended approval. And again, the building official's here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council?
Thank you, Len. This is only for, it says a resident must be deemed uninhabitable. Who makes that determination?
The building official makes that determination.
Okay. And give me an example of that. Like, here's a concern. Somebody wants to put a fifth wheel on their property. And we're within the 100 mile, we fall within the Senate Bill 250, and somebody says that their roof is leaking, but they're making effort, do they have to be out of the building? I don't want somebody to use this as a loophole to get a fifth wheel and put it in their front yard.
If the building is declared unsafe and it's not habitable, nobody can be in that building.
Okay.
So it has to reach that criteria.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, just repeat that one more time?
Once the building will be declared unsafe or not habitable, then no one can occupy that structure.
Okay.
I just don't want somebody to try to pull a fast one and say, oh, my roof is leaking because of the storm, and just because we're in 100 miles,
And the
roof could have been leaking for 6 months.
Correct.
Get some buckets.
Now, this.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, this property, excuse me, the recreation or the vehicle, the temporary shelter, is it subject to setbacks, or can it just be wherever it can fit?
It can be wherever.
So it can just go right up to the street?
It still has to be on the property, but yes, pretty
On
much.
property, okay.
Correct.
And that's in the state, that's not we're just adopting their language, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I understand it if you're in the eye of the storm.
Yes.
I get it, but, when I'm just trying to, we're talking about a lot of things now with Senate Bill 250 that really we weren't in the eye, but we could be in the eye of the storm,
True.
so,
Yeah.
okay. I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, I'm just going to say something because I find it ironic, and I'm not opposed to this or anything, but, so this is for 36 months, right? Which is interesting, right? Because let's say, God forbid, this happens here, we get, that we run into a situation where we have these mobile homes. There's a lot of hurricanes that come through in 36 months, and we got a bunch of recreational vehicles and motorhomes just all over the place. That I know I just find there's so many unintended consequences with SB 250, and it just cracks me up every time I even think too far into it. So I just wanted to put that on record. That's all I got.
So it's a similar concern, I was thinking, just construction-wise, if a town is hit and there's a lot of damaged properties, construction's slow already, and then you have a targeted area that's trying to get a lot done in 36 months. I don't know where they came up with that 36 months. My biggest concern is, can we as a village put a setback on it just for the front? Because I know that even if someone's landscaping right in the front starts to get too tall, code enforcement's out there asking them to trim it down. So if you have any kind of RV or mobile home right there on the road going parallel because they're building behind it, I don't see that being safe or even visually pleasing, but mostly safety. Is there a way we can require them to not be on the roadside, but they have to be on the side or in the far backyard? Because no one's going to build their house in the far backyard. So they can wait for the pool later.
I'm going to defer that to Keith.
I know, I'm waiting. I just want to see if there's a way we can put for the village that they can't be on the road parallel.
I'll look before second reading, but that may encroach upon the preemption.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Even if it's, X amount of feet back, just something to push it back so we don't have things right on that roadway. That was my biggest concern with it. Thank you.
Okay. Kind of going back to what Councilmember Sartori brought up with who deems the building damaged or uninhabitable. So we do. But what if you have an insurance company or FEMA or whoever, because we have, like, so there's big natural disaster, there's multiple people that are looking at buildings and determining the state they are in. Do we override all of them, like insurance companies, FEMA, anyone else that might?
The unsafe component of a structure is determined, the state of Florida has determined the building official will be the deciding factor on that,
Okay.
yes.
So no chance to run into issues there with
No, but
conflicting
to answer your
opinions?
question, yes, FEMA does, FEMA is really for damage assessment and determining the amount of structures and the extent of the damage, mild, moderate, or extreme. And it would have to be an extreme damage structure that will fall into the category of, or more likely to fall in the category of unsafe structure. But we're the ones that's making that determination. That is, it is an unsafe structure, not habitable, and then go from there.
Okay, and then following up on what Councilmember Painter said with whether it's an RV or a trailer or whatever the case may be, I know a lot of times for construction projects, they have to apply for permits for their trailers, for their temporary construction trailers, and they have to be tied down and meet hurricane code. Is there any kind of requirement that we can add that? Because like they said, with that time frame, you could roll into another hurricane season. So
that's a good and valid point, because any temporary structures require a tie down that meets the wind load. So they didn't specify that. They just said that the temporary structures are permitted, and most likely, well, I said to you, I'll have to look at that before second reading to see.
So I
check on that
think
one too.
The expectations
this
should be
allows the
secured.
temporary shelter to be put on the property, but I don't, as building official said, we'll take a look, but I don't recall anything that allows the temporary structure to circumvent any applicable building codes. It would still, to your comment, still have to comply with the requirements to place a temporary structure. This code simply requires the village to allow it for up to 36 months if the other conditions are met. But it doesn't, I don't recall anything that says that it's allowed to circumvent building code, structural tie down, or any other kind of building code requirements. So I think I believe it would still have to comply with all of those.
Okay, but we can confirm by the second reading that, and then, what was the other one? I already, setbacks, yes, location, thank you. And then, my last question is, I don't see anything about, sewer connection. It talks about water and electricity, but sewer is a huge thing that we would have to consider and deal with.
Because not everywhere has sewer, so it probably, some people may have septic, or some kind of sanitary connection that has to be in place. But the permanent, the intent is permanent connection, because otherwise you have to have a tank, it's got to be pumped. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that it has to be tied into some kind of permanent sanitary system.
So can we add that?
That's what.
Yeah, and even though the statutory language only talked about water and electric, it also says does not present a threat to health and human safety. So I would argue that if it's not connected to a sewer,
Then it becomes
you've
an
got
issue.
a health,
Yeah, you can't have sewage
human
water on the
safety,
street.
sanitary issue
Yeah.
there. So
I would say the sanitary system needs to be connected one way, or it doesn't have to be a sewer, it could be a septic system.
Yeah. They have to get that truck most likely to come out and they pump it. It's a lovely job.
I would just feel comfortable if sewer were mentioned or addressed somewhere on there. I mean, I understand what you said, but I
You
think
can't just unplug
it
and
really should
let
be
it go.
clarified within whatever the state allows. Okay, those are my only questions. All right, any public comment? Nope. All right, council, can I get a motion?
A motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on, agenda item 21, council consideration of a special permit for fire and police training from outside agencies.
Hi, Madam Mayor, Village Council. Item 21 before you concerns the use of village property by any outside agency for the use of police or fire training. The type of use would fall outside a special event permit application form, and so accordingly, this would be a new temporary use permit specifically for this purpose. The temporary use permit requires proof of liability insurance and needs to be approved by the building official, the police chief, the fire chief, and the village manager. The purpose of the temporary use permit is to help ensure the welfare and safety of village residents, and I'm here to answer any questions, as are the chief and the chief.
Thank you. Council, any comments, questions on this one?
I don't have any.
No? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 22, ordinance number 16-23, which is a first reading for revisions to our code for mobile food vendors and temporary kitchens to conform with new state law. Keith?
The last in our parade of preemption ordinances tonight is ordinance 1623, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 9 supplemental regulations, Division 11 mobile food vendors, to conform this section to recent changes in state law regarding permitting and operation of mobile food vendors, providing that each and every other section, subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date, and for other purposes. This is first reading. This ordinance is our attempt to blend our current code with recent state law that gives a little more latitude to certain mobile food vendors, mobile food dispensing vehicles, and temporary commercial kitchens. And this new code allows extended use of those temporary commercial kitchens and food trucks, basically, under certain circumstances that are inserted into our current code. Might be helpful. If you have questions, we can try and field those as opposed to going line by line in this.
Okay. Jeremy, I think your name's on this. Do you have anything else to add?
You can cover that for me.
Okay. All right, council?
I don't have any
Any
questions.
questions?
I don't have any.
Just a point of clarification. So is this this is limited to situations, I'm getting this confused now. Is this limited to situations where the restaurant cannot operate, or it's in addition to, as long as it's a operating restaurant, they have the ability, storm, no storm, this has nothing to do with that?
Well, it can be both.
Both.
It can be
So
a
it's-
situation like with the temporary commercial kitchen. So that's a defined term, and
Yeah.
that means a mobile kitchen, but it's only for takeout, and it's not for, like a food truck where you might buy it there and stand there.
And the other would be if
But so a temporary commercial kitchen that is associated with the brick and mortar licensed restaurant is allowed to be there for, 30 days. The state can give an additional 30-day extension if it's being used in conjunction with the brick and mortar establishment for the purpose of supplementing the operations. So there doesn't have to be a storm event or a renovation going on. They just, for some reason, need to supplement their current operation. This temporary commercial kitchen can be there for 30 days, or the state can give a 30-day extension. The temporary commercial kitchen can be there for a total of 60 consecutive days if it's located on the same premises. So 30 days, it can be up to 60 days if it's on the same parcel of land. Or, and it's really a convoluted statute that we had to write in here, or up to 120 days if the brick and mortar operation is undergoing renovation, repair, or rebuilding. And then it can be on the premises, or it can be off the premises within a line of sight and up to 1,320 feet away. And don't ask me, I don't know why that's the magic number that the state picked, but it is. So, so that's why we put it in our code.
Okay.
So a restaurant with a food truck can set up, they can say, I need to supplement my business. They can put a food truck in the parking lot.
Well, they can put a temporary commercial kitchen
Which is defined as a food truck, correct?
which,
Mobile
That's
food
what we
truck.
say.
you know, the distinction in the definitions is that the temporary commercial kitchen is intended to provide, here we go, takeout or delivery-only meals, whereas the Class 1 mobile food dispensing vehicle is a public food service establishment, includes self-contained utilities, and provides, you can have its menu, and it can provide meals that you could eat there. You're not supposed to necessarily, I don't think our code, unless it's under a special event scenario, you're not supposed to set up picnic tables and that sort of thing, but under a special event scenario, the mobile food dispensing vehicle could also do that. So, but to your question, temporary commercial kitchen, yes, if the restaurant said we need to supplement our operations, I don't know what their rationale would be. They'd obviously have to establish that, but then, yes, then they could do that for up to, I think it's set up to the 60-day, 60 consecutive day time period.
When you say self-contained utilities, is that electric, so they couldn't have like a generator running all day?
Well, I think that well, let's see how that's defined. Because it doesn't specify that they can't have a generator. It just says mobile food truck or mobile food dispensing vehicle that is a public food service establishment, self-propelled or otherwise movable, and includes self-contained utilities such as gas, water, electricity, or liquid waste disposal.
So, and it kind of goes back to a question.
So that's the statutory
Okay. Man.
verbiage.
Yeah. So hypothetically, if this let's say one of our local restaurants decided, this is great, allows us to, expand our operations, and just hypothetically, it was just aesthetically not very pleasing to anyone, would our only recourse as the village fines? Is that really?
Well, so hang on, there's some existing code that addresses the fact that these vehicles have to be well maintained. I just need to put my hand on that language. And that's existing. That's not anything new.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. And I don't see anyone in our village taking advantage of it, but it could become a very interesting scenario if we had mobile kitchens all over the place, but it is what it is.
So on page 7, the part that I wanted, this is what I specifically had
Yep.
looked for, was under R.
Yeah.
The parking and storage of inactive mobile food trucks. The parking or storage of mobile food trucks or temporary commercial kitchens that are not in active operation is expressly prohibited unless they have permission from the village and whatnot. But
Yeah.
that's because we kind of had someone at one point try to sneak a truck in an alleyway kind of and keep it there, and it was a hazard, and so that's kind of what I was specifically looking for when this came to us.
And that is current code. That's currently on the books.
That's perfect. And my only other question is, does this affect our ice cream man?
I beg your pardon?
Does this affect our ice cream man?
There's actually, so the ice cream trucks are distinguished as Class 3 mobile food vendors,
mobile
and
food
they
truck.
are specifically permitted to operate in the rights of way and
Okay.
operate as an ice cream truck.
'Cause
So
if
no,
it-
they are
that's
carved
fine.
out.
Anything I can do to update him,
Yeah,
if we
no,
have to
the
help him.
ice cream man is carved out. He's
Update
still
himself.
allowed to do his thing.
Okay,
Thank God.
can't get rid of him.
Yeah,
Says he
so-
can't play music though.
But it's Christmas music year round, come on.
Yeah.
He does turn it off though when he exits. Okay,
That's the only way I can find them.
I know.
My wife or my daughter will get me in the car, and I'm like chasing around.
Oh,
the
they
neighborhood.
hear it from like miles
It
away.
gets people outside
No, no.
because you're roaming, like, is it over there, is it over there? That is all my questions.
Any other council comments?
No.
All right, any public comment? Mr. Bradford?
You know, most restaurants don't own the land upon which their operation exists. So my question is this statute intended to supersede the property rights of the actual owners of the land who may say you cannot have that thing where you want to place it.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. No, the ordinance specifically requires property owner written consent.
Okay,
It
perfect.
it absolutely requires the property owner's consent.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right, council, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item 23, resolution number 27-23 for a write-off from uncollectible EMS transport fees.
I think I had a false start earlier, so I'll try again. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. What you have before you is a resolution to approve the authorization to write off $63,699.75 in EMS transport fees. The transport fees are specifically from excess billing that has already gone through insurance company payments, and they were billed prior to the year, or prior to September 30th of 2021, so more than 2 years ago. This request is consistent with Village of Tequesta past practice, so I'm here to ask for authorization for the write-off.
Any council questions or comments?
Nope.
I just have one quick one. I know the years on this are outside of when we signed up or approved the new collection
Sure.
service. Have you, do you think from what you've seen, I don't know if you have any data yet on it, do you think that this is going to improve with the new collections service that we have?
I don't really probably have enough data to answer that, with 100% certainty. Right now, I actually have my team evaluating the entire process, and I think there's definitely areas where we can improve efficiency and hopefully do better.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item 24, resolution 28-23 for an amendment to the general fund budget for fiscal year 2022/2023.
Good evening, council, mayor, vice mayor. This is really just kind of a good news story here. You'll see that we're not using any reserves. It's all excess funds coming in. So this is a small amount. The state gives us until 60 days after year end to clean up our budget, and this is just a cleanup. So unless you have any questions, it's a pretty exciting one.
Thank you. Council?
Nothing for me.
No?
Nothing?
All right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda item 25, consider approval of an Inliner Solutions proposal for stormwater drainage pipelining.
Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director. This item is one that you heard about last month. I had it in my monthly report where we had the stormwater pipe failure, and we temporarily filled in some of the sinking parts for until we could get the agreement in place to get the pipeline. So this is the agreement before you today. We are piggybacking on the Inliner agreement, and we will be covering those listed streets for pipelining for this year. And this will complete, we're starting right out of the gate to use our pipelining money before the rainy season to get that pipelined right now. So request approval. Do you have any questions?
I'm none.
None?
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because this is almost the whole budgeted amount for the year. Was this what we planned for this year, or these emergency repairs and projects are being pushed or delayed because of it? Previously planned projects are being delayed.
That's a great question, and the title, we probably should have also added planned and emergency repairs. That would have been a better title. So it includes the emergency repairs for the area that we showed you last month, as well as some planned and programmatic. We have a programmatic plan for pipelining in the village, and we have it prioritized as best we can do with the information that we have. When something comes up, like a sinkhole, and if you look through this agenda item, it does show you some pictures of little sinkholes, which is an indicator of either a sewer cave-in or, you know, a stormwater pipe. And we moved those ahead in the priority list. And so a better title would have been emergency and planned pipelining.
Okay, so that's good to know. So nothing's getting deferred this year that we had planned for.
There are some streets that are getting deferred that got, well, you know, we just had to reprioritize.
Okay, so there are some, which is fine. I mean,
It
obviously we have
just
to
is
take
what
care of
it
the
is. We got
emergencies. It is
this
what
much
it is.
budget, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was just curious, because I know when you've done water main replacement, we had to pivot, you listed on there, like, this one is getting delayed, so that was really helpful. It is what it is, we have the funds that we have this year, and emergencies come first,
And we
so.
just
But
had
it's good
to-
to know some plan work is getting done, and it's not all getting
It
deferred,
is
so.
absolutely.
Okay.
And if you look through the pictures that are listed there, some of those were items that were part of the planned programmatic pipelining that we have, you know, that plan that we have in place.
Okay,
But we do have a plan.
yeah.
It used to be 5-year plan, now it's, you know, 10-year plan, but we're marching along, moving the ball forward, getting things done.
Okay, thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
council comments or questions?
I have none.
None?
All right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, agenda item 26, consider approval agreement with Odyssey Manufacturing for liquid sodium hydroxide.
Marjorie Craig, Utilities Department. And as you know, I'm very excited about utilities, and I could go on and on about how we need caustic or sodium hydroxide for our treatment process, but it is there in the agenda item. I have the listed budget for chemicals and what we've budgeted this year and what we've encumbered, which of course is zero because we're just starting out, and what we believe that we will spend this year. So it's part of the treatment process for our, to provide safe drinking water to our customers,
Okay, thank you. Council?
just the pH.
No comment.
No comment?
No question, just a fun fact, because I grew up on well water, and one of my children actually recently asked, can I drink water out of my sink? I said, hey, I drink out of the well water sink, so yeah, you can drink out of this one, because
I drink
I
out
know
of-
what we put in our water.
I drink out of the sink all the time.
Just a fun fact.
Thank-
Just made me secondly realize, oh yes, we do
drink out of
have
my hose
good
all the
water.
time.
Thankful for all of our water work we do have. Thank you for all the
your
work you do
support.
put in.
Appreciate it.
All right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda item 27, consider approval of a piggyback with Odyssey for purchase of sodium hypochlorite.
Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director, and this is part of the treatment process. I come before you every year, or nearly every year. This is a bleach a contract for disinfection for our treated drinking water.
Council, any comments or questions?
No questions?
I have one. I know in the backup, Odyssey had listed kind of a comparison chart, and there was, I'm assuming their competitors, Allied and Brentag, and some of the rates that they listed are lower than what Odyssey's offering us. I think one of them was even with the town of Jupiter, the cost was lower. Did we look into their contracts to see if we could piggyback with them for better pricing?
And I'm sorry, for, with Odyssey or with Allied? Or with another company?
Yeah, on, in the backup from Odyssey, and
Oh, yeah,
the letter's
it-
from Odyssey, they did like a comparison chart with rates with, which one, I'm assuming is their competitors, and, some of the competitors' rates were lower, and like I said, even Town of Jupiter, which is our neighbor, I don't know if you looked and see if any of those contracts would be beneficial for some cost savings and piggyback with those other municipalities?
So what I would tell you is that, and I've worked with all of the chemical companies, they're all good companies. Odyssey is a very dependable company. It's one that we've worked with. Part of, with your drinking water, you don't want to take shortcuts, and we can look into using Allied for, and piggybacking the town of Jupiter's contract. But we've had such a good relationship with Odyssey. They provided it on time. They have storage, and they have provided us also with the, sorry, I'm flipping back to the caustic as well. So, and we can look into that, but I would recommend approval of this particular contract. The quality of the product's very good.
Okay, I totally understand the relationships and reliability and all that stuff, but I do think we always have a due diligence for our taxpayers to make sure we're getting the best price. I don't know anything, about Ally and Brentag. These other municipalities may be using them. They could be a good option, but I do trust your expertise. I just want to make sure, especially when this chart's in the backup, we're always making sure we're getting the best value when reasonable and doesn't affect level of service for the taxpayers.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment, and I appreciate your confidence. As you probably know, the town of Jupiter provides, or they purchase quite a bulk quantity of bleach as well, which does, not all vendors will allow you to piggyback contracts that are less. So we are very conscious of what the ratepayers have to pay, and I take your comments very seriously, and we'll make sure that we do our, continue to do our due diligence. Always appreciate the questions.
I guess it's more, I should have been our user fees, not taxpayers.
It's the rate.
Technically different, the rate, yeah. So, but you know what I meant. Okay,
The
thank you.
ratepayers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any public comment? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so
And
much.
Thank you. We are skipping 28, and then the final agenda item, 29, council consideration of participation with a publication of legal notices on Palm Beach County's website.
In 22, the legislative session signed into law allowing governmental agencies to publish legal notices on a publicly accessible website designated by the county instead of printing in the print newspaper under certain circumstances. Palm Beach County has now negotiated a contract with Civic Plus, who is our web post company, to allow local governmental agencies to publish legal notices on their website. So if the cost of the publishing the advertisement notices on the website is less than the cost of publishing advertisements in the newspaper, we're allowed to do it. And the cost savings would be substantial, as you can see that I outlined. A governmental agency that uses a website to publish these required advertisements will have to publish notice at least once per year in a newspaper of general circulation. And we would make that publication in January in the Palm Beach Post. The governmental agency shall maintain a registry of names, addresses, and email addresses of property owners and residents who request in writing that they receive the legally noticed advertisements, and we would maintain that list and send those out if requested by residents. I put in this agenda item some marketing tools that we can use as well. We could do a village spotlight on the front page of our website, linking to the Civic Plus portal on the Palm Beach County website. You can do it on the village's webpage, community development, because they do a lot of advertising as well. We could put it in the Friday newsletter, out on all of our social media, our smoke signals, and we could send out a code red once every year in January to people. So the one-time implementation cost is $2,000. The annual fee is $5,000. So for this year, it would be $7,000. There's a 3% increase each year, so next year would be $5,150. And you see, I put the costs going back for 3 years, and I removed the HR advertising costs because I didn't know what those, because those, I wouldn't want to intervene with what they do. So that's the agenda item.
Thank you. Council, any
I
comments or questions?
think it's a very efficient use, and if that's where everybody's going, then I support it 100%.
Yeah,
Saving us money.
Agreed. That's a significant savings.
I'm good.
Okay. Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, any other matters?
I have nothing.
Not for me.
No.
No, I just have one. There was a gentleman here earlier this evening that lived on North Cypress, that had a question about water construction, water main work on his street. Can we make sure that, he gets in touch with Marjorie? His name was Blair.
We have his contact information.
I told him to leave his contact information. I don't know. Maybe check if he didn't leave it, then it's gonna be difficult. Did any of you, I know some of you talked to him. Do any of you know that gentleman that talked to him
I
earlier?
didn't know about
No,
the
okay.
issues happening, no.
His name is Blair. He lives on North Cypress. Maybe check with Marjorie. I don't know if he connected with her, but it'd be nice to get him an answer. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?